You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and we are back today with Sherianna Boyle, who is doing her 4-part series on emotional eating. And if you haven't had an opportunity to go and listen to part 1, what is emotional eating, and 2, consequences and stress responses, oh my gosh, we covered so much good stuff. So go listen to those. But on today, we're going to talk about the importance of connection for emotional eating. I just want to tell you a little bit about Sherianna. I'm a super fan of hers. She's the author of 9 books, including her most recent, Emotional Detox Now, 135 Practices to Renew the Mind, Heart, and Body. She's an adjunct psychology professor. I know I'm probably saying that wrong, but founder of Emotional Detox Coaching and the Cleanse Method. She has been featured in over 85 articles, and she is a renowned speaker. Like, she's much sought after for massive organizations. And she's also one of Best Holistic Life's writers. So I'm super proud to boast about that because we love her here. But Sherianna, thank you so much for being a part of this emotional eating series and creating this beautiful space for people to come learn and start making changes.
Oh, thanks so much. Good to be back.
Well, I know we're going to talk about the importance of connection from emotional eating, and I don't even know what that means. So
it's based on studies with addiction, Jana. And so, the opposite of addiction would be sobriety, right? You talk about living a sober life, free of substances and things like that. But there was a study that was done many years ago, and it was called the R.A.T study. I don't know if you heard of it.
Is it R-A-T?
R.A.T, R.A.T.
Okay.
R.A.T, yes. And so basically they put a rat in a cage, and they gave the rat water and some morphine, right? So the rat had a choice. It could either get the water or the morphine. The rat chose the morphine, right? So it chose the drug. And then they put the rat with other rats, and they put it in a community. And they gave them things to do, like stimulating, like little things to play on, things to run around together. And once again, they put the water and they put the morphine in the cage. And guess what? They chose the water.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that changed the way we think about addiction. So the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection.
I love that because I'm a firm believer that when you get into a community, it changes the outcome of what it is you're trying to do. Like, that doesn't mean you won't get there on your own, but when you have a community around you, it's empowering.
It's almost essential. And it took me, I think that's the longest lesson for me. And it really took being around people like you and some other people. I was on a radio show forever, and being in community with other people that really makes you realize, wow, like there's more, right? Like, yes, I'm doing great, but you can even grow even more or learn new things about yourself. So there is something really amazing about community and connection for sure.
Well, I definitely want to talk about some of the things that you're doing to create this beautiful community. But before I do, I'm going to tell you what I think about communities. I think you have to find the right one.
Yes.
Because when I was diagnosed with gastroparesis, and it was literally given to me as a fatal diagnosis, first thing I did was go look for community, right? I wanted to connect to other people. I wanted to learn from them. It was so depressing, Sherianna, that within a week, I was like, I didn't come here to die. I want solutions. I want to put my brain somewhere else. So finding the right community is key. If they're not lifting you and calling you on, your excuses or whatever, and saying, yeah, I've been there, that doesn't work, or however that works, and it's not monitored by the correct people, it really can be a bad experience. For me, it was. But when I found
it can be traumatic.
It could be.
It actually can create more trauma, and it re-traumatize you if you don't find that. And that happened to me as well. After, my core book, Emotional Detox, was all about my marriage breaking down and then building back up again. But I did the same thing. I went online And I thought, okay, who's going through what I thought, oh my gosh, this is upsetting me. There's things I hadn't even thought of that now I'm thinking about. Right. And so I very soon knew that was not the place for me, that I would get re-traumatized. And part of that was because I had studied emotions so much. And I knew that that was very much possible, that you can get re-traumatized. You can get re-traumatized even if you're in the wrong therapy situation. So it's not just community. It could be with even a medical person. You really do have to listen to what feels right for you. It doesn't mean they're bad or wrong, but if you can't let your guard down and you can't be yourself, and you feel like you can't feel what you need to feel, right? And then it might not be the place for you. So I think that is with anything, right, Jana? Finding the right fit.
I'm 100%. And I do not think that this group was wrong. It was wrong for me. Like
Yeah.
I was looking for something else. And there has to be a place where you can vent, right? You can say how miserable you feel that day, and like you're tired of feeling miserable because maybe your husband doesn't want to hear it for the 20th time that day, and it's a real thing. But I didn't want to be in that space, and I knew for me to heal or to create this journey, I could not do it there. And so I had to leave. And I will tell you, out of the 25 women it was all women, the 25 women that were there, only 2 of us are still alive. Can you believe that?
Wow.
That is crazy, right? But I feel like when they got there, they had given up. Like they had totally given up on their journey. And if you said, have you tried this? Yeah, my doctor says that won't work. I've tried that. It won't work. And their brain was just already so into their diagnosis that they didn't see the possibilities of, okay, well, maybe it won't work, but I'm going to try it because I want to be here another day.
Absolutely. Well, I think the addiction community has taught us a lot about the value of groups. I mean, you look at AA model, you look at the Al-Anon model. I mean, they have done such amazing work for people and helping people to go into a recovery model. So we know that community works for sure. And so that is an important part, but more so connection, right? So it's not just, you don't have to join a group, but really about learning how to connect. And that means that, and again, we're talking about emotional eating. That means learning to talk about what you need, right? Because think of emotional connection. It's raw, it's vulnerable, it's not perfect. Sometimes, it shows a side of you that maybe you've been hiding for a long time. And a lot of us do. We try to look strong, be strong. We don't want anybody to see, we do it for the sake of others or the sake of love. And so part of connection is learning to have a voice for what you need. This is what I need, and this is how I feel.
So when I say that you have to find the right group, I did find the right groups. I found really amazing groups where I could go in there and voice my opinion. And I will tell you, Sherianna, some of the connections I made, I feel like I've known some of those people forever. Like we're so tight.
Yeah. I mean, they're out there for sure that you will. And I always say, just process what you feel, and you will be guided. But as long as we're not processing, if we are stuffing our emotions, we're avoiding them, we're disregarding, we're minimizing what we feel, what that does is it also interferes, it blocks you, and it blocks you from receiving new opportunities and people in your life, or from having a new relationship with the ones that are with you. So it's so important to know that if you're feeling stuck, or if you're feeling like you've been in the same situation for a long time and you've been turning to food, well, that's a block. It's an emotional block. And we just think of it like bricks. You just keep putting a brick on it, putting in a brick on it. And again, you need to eat. Okay. I'm telling you, not, it's important that you eat because food is life, right? You need food to live. You need water to live. You need the nourishment. A lot of times food does bring connection, right? I mean, how many times in a business world you say, okay, there's a meeting at 2:00. Nobody's there. Okay, we're going to have food. Everybody shows up.
I love it.
Right. So now we're all there and now we have connection. Right. So it, you have to eat. We're not telling you that be careful, of how you're eating. If it's making you feel connected, and just slow down a little bit, right? Just observe yourself when you are in those situations. A lot of people have social anxiety, Jana. A lot of people have the insecurity or they don't eat at all, when they're around people, or they choose, they're uncomfortable. And that's something that community can help you with. You might need to start individually for a little while with someone, but then eventually maybe go into groups that you can start to build a tolerance up a little bit. Because that you can do it, but you have to get out. You got to come out of the cave, get out in the world, right? Test it out. Doesn't mean you have to go to a big old party or a concert, just come out and start to be around people again. This whole pandemic in the last few years really done a number on people, Jana.
It has. And when you talk about social anxiety, for any girl who's ever gone on her first date, like, we don't order food, right? We're afraid to eat in front of our date. Like, we push it around. We order the lightest thing, right? And we push it around. And then they get to know us 3 months later, and we're like eating off their plate, and the real us emerges. But it's true. Like, it's so funny how all of our beautiful things I can look back and remember are all around food. Like the dinners that you have with your friends, the barbecues, the picnics, the beach, events, everything is based around food. So I kind of wonder, how do we ever keep the emotions out of it?
Exactly. And, just to circle back to, I know in the previous episode, we talked a little bit about family meals and things like that. And sometimes if you're looking to make a shift, it really can be a family decision where you put your family on a new track and you say, I was talking about in the last episode, don't enable, right? If you know someone, children are emotional eaters too, right? They come home, and I mean, I've got one with a bag of Halloween candy right now. So, and she's starting to purge it, but children also, you'll see them, turn to food, also eating in your rooms, eating in front of the TV, taking the whole bag instead of pouring it into the bowl. And, these little things can make a big difference to teach your children and also to role model to your children. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, we don't take the whole bag. We take portions. and then you see how you feel after that. And then you go back for more, right? So, I mean, they've done studies on this. They've done studies that's called the soup bowl study, where they put this little hose in the bottom of the soup bowl. And I don't know how they did the filling, but they kept filling their bowl up with the soup. And they showed, the study was showing the people, they weren't even aware that the soup wasn't going down.
That's hysterical.
Right. And it was a study about distracted eating.
Huh.
So they just kept filling it up. Imagine if you're sitting there and your cup's getting full and you don't even know, because nowadays we have technology and we have the phones and we have, and we really want to develop habit. I mean, this is the new year. This is coming out in the new year. This is our time to say, look, guys, we're starting fresh. No phones at the table. Right. Because it's not about the table, right? And it's about creating so that when we have a phone, we're all about the phone, then your body's not reading the signals. It's distracted. So when you're in a state of distraction, you're no longer aware of the gut and the brain connection.
That's so true. I think it's so important to be focused on our meals, enjoy our food. Like that trick that you are supposed to chew is it 30, 40 times? But you're thinking about it. And there's a really good study out about breath work before you eat to get your body prepared for that. And you just take some deep breaths before you sit down to eat. And I like to hydrate before I eat. I really do, because half the time I eat more than, they say your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Like you're like, I'm starving and I'll just take a scoop of everything. And then you sit down, you have this massive plate and you're like, wow, now I got to eat all that. So I think being focused on your food, taking the time to enjoy it, chewing it, like letting it like flow down. Like we're literally only supposed to be swallowing paste. So if we aren't chewing it, our digestive tract is going berserk, trying to figure out what to do with this massive amount of unchewed food. So little simple things like that are like super powerful.
Very powerful, because chewing tones the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, and I think you told me a little bit about your vagus nerve.
I don't have one anymore.
Yeah. So the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body, and it intersects with almost all of your organs and down into your intestine tract. So when the vagus nerve is not toned, chewing tones the vagus nerve. And when it's not toned, we lose that gut brain connection, and we stay in those fight or flight, fear, fixed responses. So just the act of moving your jaw in that way will tone it. The other thing that's really interesting, Jana, is, well, I don't know if we have enough time for this and how we're running, is if you take a second and you think about, Jana, think about like what you have to do after we record today. All right. Think about that. Okay. So I'm just giving her a second. She's thinking, okay, she's got it. And now pause and open your mouth. So your mouth is not closed, and think about what you have to do after, and tell me if there's a difference.
Yeah. I salivated. I can feel my mouth watering.
Okay. She feels her mouth watering. That's interesting, because that's okay. That tells us that she's going into more of a relaxed state, because you don't salivate when you're in a fight or flight state. So that's a good sign. Yeah. Think of salivation. So you're salivated, but it was harder to think about what you had to do next with your mouth open.
Yeah.
Yes. You actually have to work harder at it.
Yeah.
Right? So when you release your jaw, the whole jaw thing, that's why yoga and things like that, where we learn to release our jaw, release the facial muscles, all of that actually interrupts thinking. It interrupts distractibility and preoccupation.
Wow, you're going to see me on all these podcasts like, I love it. So you guys, this series has been so impactful and like so educational. If you haven't listened to this first part of the series where Sherianna talks all about what emotional eating is, and then we did the second part of the series where she discusses the consequences and stress responses. And then of course, this beautiful episode where she's talking all about the importance of connection for emotional eating. Like, you're going to want to go back and listen to those, share them with your friends, but tune in for the final issue where she shares some of her incredible tips to solutions to emotional eating. Sherianna, before we get off though, I do not want to forget, tell people where they can go get your new book, which will be released in February. So you can pre-order it, and some of your other incredible stuff.
Absolutely. So Emotional Detox Now is where all books are sold, Barnes and Noble. Emotionaldetoxnow.com is my website, and that's where you can find all the books. And you can also find the courses that I'm offering. I'm offering an emotional detox course. Emotional eating course. And then I cleanse every week with people on emotionaldetoxnow.com. So we have a community, and we get together weekly and we cleanse together, which means we process emotions and we see what's coming up for people. And then I guide people through the process.
So powerful. We're going to have all those links for you in the show notes, so we don't want you to miss anything, and pre-order that book because it is going to be powerful for you. So buy it for a friend, right? Like, what do you just talk about community? Do it with a friend, grab a book and create a book club on it. It's like going to be amazing. So we'll see you in part 4, where we discuss some of the solutions that you can use for emotional eating. Thank you, Sherianna.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show. That'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.